All right, in this lesson, we're going to talk about political ideology as well as party ideology. Remember that political ideology can be shaped by your political socialization, okay? So, your family, your peers, school, organizations that you belong to, so on and so forth. So, that can all shape your attitude about politics, including your political ideology. So, political ideology is defined as a set of beliefs about what should happen as a result of the process of government. So, this is a collection of beliefs about morality, economics, efficiency, how society should function, and what the government's role really is. So, how much should the government regulate the economy? How much should the government be involved in decisions regarding an individual's private life? And how much should the government act to ensure equality of opportunity? All right, so for example, when it comes to political ideology, there are many different issues that have been debated in terms of the government's role. So, healthcare is a good example of a topic that's been debated along ideological lines. So, some people are going to have the ideology that healthcare is a right, so something that should be guaranteed to people and that the government can't take away, where other people are going to view healthcare as a privilege, so something that a person may obtain or receive, but that the government can take away. So, this is just an example of beliefs about how society should function, what the role of government is. Moving on to party ideology. Okay, so because the United States is made up of so many different groups, policymakers are going to have to balance competing party ideology. So, this is a party's philosophy about the proper role of government and its set of positions on major issues. So, we in the United States have the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as those two main parties. And they're going to have different stances on the economy, on national security, on social welfare, education, immigration, abortion, the environment, gun control, healthcare, so on and so forth. So each party is going to have its own ideology, so its own set of positions about those types of issues. Party identification is an individual's attachment to a political party, so whichever political party a person would identify with. So let's talk a little bit about the differences in the two main parties in the United States. So the Republican Party is associated with conservatism, an ideology that favors more control of social behavior, fewer regulations on business, and less government interference in the economy. So some of the things that the conservative ideology covers is that the government plays a minimum role in society. The government should engage in minimum regulation of the economy. The government has an important role to play as far as regulating moral issues. Okay, so conservative ideology is going to uphold more traditional beliefs, and that government funding of social goods should be limited. So, those are some examples of that conservative party ideology. On the other hand, the Democratic Party is going to be associated with liberalism, which is an ideology that supports less government control over social behavior and more regulation of business and the economy. So, liberal ideology is going to include the idea that the government has an important role to play in society. The government should regulate the economy in order to ensure efficiency is maximized and that non economic interests are protected. That the government should refrain from regulating moral issues like abortion, same sex marriage, marijuana, and that those private matters should be left up to the individuals. And that the government should spend money to assist citizens with social services like housing and food and so on. All right, so some other ideologies, okay, and we'll just go through these kind of quickly. The first is libertarianism, and this is an ideology that favors very little government regulation and intervention beyond protecting private property and individual liberty. So, this ideology opposes government regulation of both the economy and personal choices. So individual liberty is at the highest value. The others are radical ideology, which favors a fundamental change in existing social, economic, or political order. And this might be, in this case, may be willing to resort to extreme means. Moderate ideology falls between liberal and conservative and may include some of both. So some people might consider themselves moderate and have views that are both Republican and Democrat or liberal and conservative. And then reactionary ideology advocates a return to a previous state of affairs, often a social order or government that existed earlier in history. So both Democrats and Republicans are seeking liberty and order for society, but they view the issues differently. So liberty is business being free from government regulation versus sexual and marital privacy. Okay, so conservatives are seeing liberty as business being free from government regulation, whereas liberals see liberty as being sexual and marital privacy. And that goes to order. So preserving American values versus gun control regulations. Okay. So there's this debate between conservatives and liberals as far as reflecting the tensions between liberty and order. Okay. So balancing those two in order for society to function. So this idea that excessive personal liberty will lead to chaos, but excessive social order could stifle personal liberty. Okay. So this is where the idea of liberty versus order comes in and how to obtain that in society. And that's where we are going to stop.